I have to go home to something. So that's what I mean. I knew if you weren't, if you weren't, they want to make sure that they figure out a way not to pay. That's the thing.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Revis, it is 7 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Others would probably join in, but first of all, I want to say welcome, Dr. Lamb. For those that were able to join the town hall last night or yesterday evening, Dr. Lamb has already welcomed you to the program, but this is officially the first evening of this new experience, your first class, and I'm Dr. Stedman. I will be with you throughout this 16-week experience, along with Dr. Revis, that I'll introduce in just a minute. But we want to thank you again for choosing Gardner-Webb University to pursue, to further your education and to learn what it is to become a school administrator in the 21st century. And our jobs this semester, Dr. Revis and mine, along with Dr. Lamb, who will be in and out with us, our jobs are to help you get started in the right direction, to give you a good foundation, and we're going to do everything that we can to try to make sure that it is a very positive experience and that you get what you've signed up for. I will ask you just some housekeeping things. Dr. Revis, while I'm talking, Dr. Revis will be responding to any questions that you might have. But if you would, for the most part, try to hold as many questions as you possibly can. You may want to write them down, because more than likely, before the evening is over with, most of the questions, if not all of them, will be answered in what I say, what Dr. Revis says, or what Dr. Lamb says when he comes on board. And then again, we will be with you again on Thursday night this week, and you've seen your schedule. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, it is on Monday, Tuesdays and Thursday nights, but then we back off a little bit. But you will hear some of the same things on Thursday night, but we take it a little bit further and a little bit deeper with some of the things we do. So it's most important for those of you that can to join us both Tuesday night and Thursday night. It's so much better when you're in person and you can hear us firsthand. We will always send you the recordings, so you will always have the information so that you can review it on your own if you can't be with us. In addition, they serve as a great resource to go back and to look at things, when you're, what did they say, or, I can't remember that. It'll always be there, and we'll show you where that is. What you see right now is week 1. And week 1 started last night with the town hall that you can see under the topics. For those that could not be there, or those that were, for whatever reason, missed it, that link has already been sent to you. It was emailed to you, and it's also found in Blackboard under week 1. So you can always go back to week 1, and you will find the videos, whatever we have recorded for that week will be in that particular week. You'll get an email with it, plus it'll always be placed under that particular week. We are right here, weekly Zoom session number 1, and then your session number 2 is announced as well for the 16th, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. These are some of the resources, and this is just some of the resources that you're asked to do for this particular week. We're particularly going to talk to you about is more or less an orientation into Blackboard. What can you expect? What will you be doing this semester? We're going to be laying those kinds of things out, those questions that you've had, since you signed up and since you've looked at all the stuff that's in Blackboard. I know you've got a lot of questions just floating around in your heads. We're going to just point out some things about the syllabus, procedures, deadlines, the course handbook. We're not going to go all over all this stuff. We're just going to just make sure you know where it is and point you to that and tell you some pertinent things that you need to know about it. Just remind you of some things in Blackboard. And then Dr. Revis is going to particularly talk to you about the library as a resource. I will be coming back to this, but these are the assignments for this particular week. And you will see that if you see it in red, and we'll talk about this more, if it's in red, that means that that is something that you've got to do with the evidence work that I'm going to be talking about a little bit later on. Dr. Revis is going to talk to you more in detail about the PLCs or professional learning communities, and then you will see some links that will be a part of the work that you will be doing for this week and for next week. Those are live links. You can go to those and read them, and you can use those as resources in doing the work that you're going to be doing. But this is basically what we're covering tonight. I didn't detail it because there is so much. Couldn't put it in there, so we're going to begin our orientation. Dr. Revis, if you would, go ahead and introduce yourself before I get started with.
Good evening. I am delighted to be working in this program, and I have been an administrator for, 30 plus years, and I hope that you will find this meaningful. It's our job to make this applicable to becoming a school leader, and both Dr. Stedman and myself have been school and district leaders for many years, and hopefully we can share not only theoretical but practical information with you as well. And I do look forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Revis. And both of us are now retired from the public school work, but both of us have had experience at all levels. We were classroom teachers, we were principals, and both of us ended up our careers working at the central office level, at the superintendent's level. So we're going to share with you a lot of experiences, that valuable experiences that we've had as you are moving into this new adventure. I will tell you up front, most of you, every time you see me, pretty much, you're going to see me with a hat on. That's my trademark. And when you get old like me and you don't have anything on top anyway, you have to cover it up and keep it warm. So you'll see me with a hat on most of the time, but I always use it as a tool when I begin talking to my students for the first time. Many of you are still in the classroom. And so what you're doing now is going to be completely different from anything you've ever done in your life. Some of you have already ventured into semi-administrative roles if you're working as a facilitator for something, if you're a coach. You have to take on some of those responsibilities. But there's nothing like, you've heard the old saying that the buck stops here. When you're the principal of the school or when you're the leader of the school, that's where every decision stops at your desk. And so what I want you to do right now is, as you see me with this hat on, you're going to have to take off the hats that you have been wearing for all these years that you've been in the education business. If you're a classroom teacher, from this point on, it doesn't devalue classroom teachers. It doesn't devalue your role as a teacher. It just means that you have to begin thinking and doing things differently. So literally, what I'm saying is you have to take that teacher hat off that you've been wearing all this time, and you've got to put the hat of a principal on. I could take my glasses off. You've got to begin looking at things through a different lens. if you're in the classroom, you think as a teacher, you can't help it. And many times you've probably, as a classroom teacher, or as not being the principal of the school or the assistant principal, you've probably said before, why in the world is my principal making me do this? Why in the world is the superintendent requiring my principal to tell me that we've got to do this? All of us have been there and done it. I did too. Even when I was a principal, I wondered sometimes, why in the world is the superintendent making me do this? Because he had somebody over him or she had somebody over them, you know, that was putting down directives from the state level as well. So there's always somebody that you're accountable to. So my challenge to you right now is to begin thinking as an administrator. That's your first job, is to take off the hat, put on a different set of glasses, and to begin looking at things differently. Now, I can promise you this, and you'll come back in a few weeks, and if we were talking one-on-one, you would tell Dr. Revis and me, you would say, you know, I remember that first night when Dr. Stedman said thus and so, and now I know what he's talking about. Or now, Dr. Revis, I know what you're talking about. You give it 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks at the most, and you're going to rethink this night as you begin the challenges that we're going to challenge you with, the work that you're going to have to do. You will begin. Your coworkers are not going to understand you sometime, and you're going to begin seeing, not that you will discredit them, but you'll see them differently, because they're not going to understand you, because you are moving from that role into another role. And in about 3 to 5 weeks, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. Dr. Revis, a comment on that?
That's exactly right. And we don't expect you to be able to see things through the lens of an administrator, but making that transition is something that happens so gradually that you may not even recognize it, but we start recognizing it in you pretty quickly. When you're looking at the big picture and being able to see all the nuances and all the issues surrounding bringing together a PLC, professional learning community, around a certain issue. But you will change, and hopefully that's what you're here for. You're learning to be a school administrator.
Right.
If you're not wanting to be a school administrator, you're in the wrong program, because our goal definitely is to get you ready to be a school principal.
Exactly. Thank you.
So,
let's look very quickly, and most of you should have gone through this already. The course overview. Again, Dr. Revis and I both would have given you a welcome and a course introduction where you can meet us, tell us a little bit. But on this course overview page is your course syllabus. You can click on that. This is the points for the program. To be able to get an A in this program, you must have, at the end of the semester, a total of 3,750 points. That will give you a solid A. Now, there are students sometimes that have said, well, I've got my A, I don't need to do any more work. Wrong. We work and we plow to the end of the road. Just because we got our 3,750 points doesn't mean that we don't strive for that perfect score, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably 4,001 points, because you get that 1 point for that, you know, just doing that little activity that we ask you to do to give your personal information. So this is where I want everybody to be at the end of this semester. There's no reason that Dr. Revis and I should have to do anything other than to put an A in the grade book when the semester's over with. So my goal is, and Dr. Revis's goal is, we're going to push you and push you and push you, because we don't want anything less than this. So sometimes you may get stuff back because it's not what I think is good enough, or Dr. Revis thinks is good enough, because we want it right. And I think that you would expect us to push you in that direction and make sure that it's right before we approve it. You should have already looked at all of this. Make sure that if you have not done so in Blackboard, that you've done your EVA, your enrollment verification activity. This simply lets the university know that you have signed on. So that's very, very important. If you have not done your enrollment verification activity yet, and most of you have, please take care of that. I would hope that you've ordered your textbooks, and these other things are pertinent as well. If you have a problem with that, just let Dr. Revis or me know, and we'll assist you with that as we need to. This one occurred last night. I'll take it out after today. But this is this recurring ID. You can sign in with this every week. So it will always be on the front page. You'll know right where to go. And this is the one for Thursday night. When we do have Thursday night classes, this is the one that you will use. It'll be a recurring one. And then at the bottom, we've included, Dr. Revis is going to be talking about this. APA has changed this semester. We will now be using the 7th edition. So if you've got anything, an older edition, you need to put it on a shelf somewhere. You cannot use it. If you pull it out, it will mix things up and it will cause work to have to go back because we are required to use the 7th edition. Dr. Revis is going to talk about that tonight. But in addition to that, next week on the 23rd, at 6 o'clock, you can use this link, and somebody from the university is going to be doing a session on the new APA. I would advise you to be a part of that as you can. And then there will be a repeat of that same session on the 28th. So this is put that on your calendar and try to join at least one of them. Because it's new, I'm going to try to make every effort to be a part of both of them because it takes me a little bit longer to catch on to things sometimes. So I'm going to make sure that I don't miss it. Then most of you are familiar with Blackboard, but there are modules in there that you can click on in Blackboard if you're having any problems with anything, and it will help you understand what it is that you don't understand. And then Dr. Revis and I will be available as well. When you click on this will let you know the support services that are available for Gardner-Webb University. Technical services, if you're having problems on the weekend, it'll tell you where you need to call and get help if there's anything that's going on. In addition to that, Dr. Revis is going to be talking about this, but this is direct link to our Dover Library, and she's going to be talking more about that later on in the evening. What I'd like to do at this time is just very quickly, I want to go over what you see to the left. You can see my grades, and that is for you only. That's where, once grades go in, you can click on there and you can always see what your grades are. If there's a question about something, you can always reach out to Dr. Revis or me, and we'll be glad to discuss anything with you if there's something you don't understand. Right here, when you click on this, and you should have already done that, when you click on this area, it takes you directly to your MELS Scale Handbook. This is everything about the MELS program. The Site Mentor Handbook that your Clinical Coach 1, who will be coming out to your school, will be taking that as well to share with your administrator, or will be emailing it to your administrator, but you've got a copy of it already. This is the Internship Handbook. This is what you're going to be required to do as a student intern, and we'll be talking more about that on Thursday night. And then these are some things that you will be doing or needing some documents that you'll be using when you are setting up your folio that Dr. Lamb and Dr. Revis and I will be talking about later on. I'm just basically showing you that these resources are going to be there. And I would advise you to click on every one of them so that you know what is there. What we're doing now is Zoom. This is so that we can see each other face to face and we can talk just like if we were in a classroom. This is a virtual classroom. So if in setting up your own Zoom, this tells you how to get started with Zoom, and then this is some Zoom Live training. We've also given you some information in your syllabus that tells you how to set up your own private Zoom account. All of you need to set up your own Zoom accounts because you will be coming together as a group, an assigned group for assignments at some point during the semester. These are your Zoom teams. Pretty much, this is for one of the groups. We pretty much keep them like this unless there is a need to change because somebody has dropped out or we don't have enough in a group, and then we make changes down the road if we need to. But for the most part, the team one, the people that you see here in the C2 group, these are the people that you'll be working with all semester, and pretty much you will work with these throughout the program as you go into your other classes as well. This is the first assignment. If you have not done that, when you click on that, it tells you very quick something to do, and this lets Dr. Revis and me know that you are in the system and that you know what to do. You only get 1 point for that, but it's simply just giving your contact information so that your members know how to get up with you, and then you'll get a point from Dr. Revis and me. And I think I said, you know, thanks. I look forward to working with you this semester. You'll just get a brief comment back from us on that. But that's just to let us know that you are in the system. Again, you saw your syllabus on your on the front page, but we also have the syllabus in your Blackboard shell as well. And I would advise you again to take the time to read and understand that from the beginning to the end. You will also see listed in your Blackboard shell, this is your weekly schedule. When you look at this outlines the whole 16 weeks of this program beginning effective right now. And it takes you through week 1 all the way through week 16. And this is what Dr. Revis or I will put up on the screen every week when we start our Tuesday classes, so that we'll go over what is you're responsible for that week. I would advise you, because of the fast pace of this program, you need to know exactly what is due that week, but you always need to be familiar with the next week as well, and you'll understand that as this all unfolds, because it all goes together so much. And while you're working on something this week, you may be able to pull resources that's going to help you with next week's assignment as well. So once you get into it, and I'm going to talk about that more later on when I introduce you to your first assignment, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But always you need to know this week, but you need to take a glance at what is going to be due for the next week. Peer review materials, I'm just going to click on that. We're going to talk about this more specifically on Thursday night. But for the evidence work that we're going to introduce tonight, you will be required with those teams that has been assigned. For team 1, Kayla, Diane, Stephanie, Kenneth, and Precious, they're going to be working together. And when you go to evidence 1 that I'll introduce tonight, and you go to task 1, once you complete task 1, you will be submitting it to me or to Dr. Revis. You will be submitting it to us for review. Your team members or your class that you're in can also see your work. And so what you'll be responsible for is that Kayla will be responsible for looking at these other 4 people in her group, and she'll have to review 2 people's work. She will actually look at the work and she'll provide you constructive feedback on the work that you do before it is submitted to me for a final grade. I will also look at it as well. Dr. Revis will look at it as well. We will provide you feedback. It will not be approved ever to go in for a final grade until it is ready for a final grade. You don't ever have to worry about us allowing you to submit something that is not ready for a final grade. That's why I said there's no reason for you at the end of this program not to have an A, because we are so meticulous about things. We're just not going to let you do something that's not right. So we'll talk about this. The template is there. The process is there. You need to click on that. And then we will, Dr. Lamb and I will introduce this more in detail on Thursday night. And the case study materials, you'll be doing 2 case studies this semester. It's a while down the road before you have to do case studies. I don't know what happened. It's a while down the road before you have to do case studies. So we will talk about that more this Thursday, and if not this Thursday, we'll talk about them next week. But you just need to click on it and know that that they are coming. The case studies are aligned with the evidence work that we will be doing this semester, and I'll refer back to that as well. Your video library, we'll come back to that. Your APA format materials, Dr. Revis, I'm going to let you talk at this point because I need to get some water and rest my throat.
Okay, you see the link here, and Dr. Stedman, if you'll just go ahead and click that link.
Okay.
It takes us to the Dover Library, and they have done a really good job. As you can see up at the top, be sure that you're on APA Style 7th edition, and they've done a really good job giving you some resources. Now, for those of you who have written in your other graduate work under 6th edition, I think perhaps the biggest difference is that now we can write in active first person. So instead of saying the candidate formed a PLC with the principal's permission, you can say, I formed this PLC with the principal's permission. It's very unusual for us, and it's difficult for us as instructors to get used to that as well. But anyway, that's one of the biggest differences, I think. There are some differences as well on levels of headings, which I don't think you'll have to worry that much with. But as you scroll on down here, the font guidelines, we prefer you to write everything in 12-point Times New Roman. You have some options for APA there, 11-point Georgia, but for us, we want 12-point Times New Roman. Your line spacing, everything is double spaced, even your reference pages. There's a link there to show you how to do your page header, title page setup, running head, section headings, and tables and figures. There is one change on your figures. I think when you labeled your figures in the body of the text, under 6th edition, you would put the title of the figure beneath the figure, and now it's moved to the top. I hope I'm getting that correct.
It is. But tables and figures are both at the top. They're the same with the
They're the same now.
Uh-huh.
And they give you really good examples when you click on those links. There are really good examples that will take you through, and you can find just about everything that you need to format, as far as formatting, right there. The other thing that's a little bit different on 7th edition, if I remember correctly, Dr. Stedman, is when you have 3 authors and you're citing in-text citations with 3 authors. It used to be the first time you would label all 3 of them or all 4 of them, but under 7th edition, the first time you have 3 authors, you can use the et al.
Right.
That is a change as well. And what we have found is the capitalization rules are much different. Very few things are capitalized. Only those proper nouns are capitalized. So I would just say go through this formatting, and you've got good resources here. Do not use Purdue Wise Owl anymore. They have not updated their website. Use this. Let's see. The other thing I would say, over on the right-hand side of your screen, you see in-text citations. Remember that anytime you are using a direct quote, you have to put the author, the date of publication, and the page number. And if you're paraphrasing or you're providing a summary, then you still have to note that with the author and date. And there's some examples there. You don't have to include a page number when you're paraphrasing. Tells you how to use long quotes, which you probably won't be using that very often. But there's also the information I was telling you there about multiple authors as well. Just become familiar with it and help each other out. When you're doing those peer reviews, it's easy for us to kind of overlook APA, and we don't want it. We don't want the APA style format to overtake the content. But guys, you have to know it and write well enough to write a scholarly paper. So help each other out and give good feedback on your peers' work, and note the APA issues if you see any there as well.
And we'll stress that much more on Thursday night, Dr. Revis, about exactly what we want in that, because they don't have one due this week. So
Correct.
that gives us a little more time. And why this, what you see right here, we cannot get this to open up. Once the Media Center is going to have to correct that. It's a hanging indent. Once that's corrected, I'll let you know. But right now, you might can get it to open. I cannot get it to open up. I've tried several times, and I've had somebody else. It just keeps circling for me.
And we don't require you to purchase an APA 7th edition manual. You can. I would think that most everything you need you can find here. But definitely, if you want to purchase your own, you may do so.
And this tells you where you can purchase it right here, if you want, other than going to Amazon or any. Dr. Revis, I wanted to point out too, underneath this section, this is an APA 7th edition update. This is a slideshow. This is additional information, or what's new in the APA 7. You can look at those as well, and then somebody will explain much more in detail some of the things as well. So those are resources for you as well right there.
Dr. Stedman, may I take a tangent just very briefly?
Sure.
I'm getting a lot of questions in the chat room about you were signed up for, some of you were signed up for Dr. Anita Sanders' class. It's my understanding that there was a change at the last moment, and so you are in the correct Zoom session. I think I am taking over her class roster, but everything should be fixed by tomorrow morning. So you are in the correct Zoom session. Even if you are supposed to be, one person said they were supposed to be in Dr. Crawford's, I would suggest stay here for the time being, because we go over the same information.
Right. So, it's what Dr. Crawford is doing is exactly what we're doing right now with his group. But if you are with Dr. Revis, that means that she will actually evaluate, or she will grade your work. But if there are issues over and beyond some of the things, that I will also be available with her students to serve as a coach. So, and vice versa. We will be working back and forth with each other. So if you're assigned to me, that means that if there's an issue or something, and Dr. Revis may be better at, there's some that we have our strengths, And so there's something that I might do better than Dr. Revis, or Dr. Revis might do better than I do. So I would refer you to her, you know, so that you're getting the best assistance possible and vice versa. So we're going to be working with each other no matter who you're assigned to. You're assigned to one as an instructor, and that's who you would report directly to if you've got issues, or that's who you're going to get your grades from. But in addition to that, you've got this other resource that you can, if you want Dr. Revis, if you're with me and you want Dr. Revis to look at something that, some evidence work, then you can submit it to her for her input before it ever comes to me, or vice versa. So, and again, we'll show you how to do that and more about that as we are unfolding things. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Revis, for that.
Sure.
And you'll find this Dover Library link, you'll find it in several places, and it was deliberately put there so that if you are doing work in that area, you don't have to click out and go find it and come back. It's right there for you so that you will be able to go to the library and get, you know, assistance if you need assistance with something. Dr. Revis, are there other questions before I move forward with our evidence work that we need to address?
Okay, let me scroll back through here. I apologize for all the confusion about which course section you are supposed to be in, but the registrar's office or graduate office was working as late as 5 o'clock this afternoon trying to get people where they should be. So if you're listening to this Zoom, you're okay. Don't get wigged out on us.
And I, you know, and I'm going to give you right now, my phone number is 910-633-4816. Dr. Revis, your phone number is
828-674-9981.
If you don't let us talk you off the cliff if you're on the ledge about anything. Don't jump. Don't leave us. You know, we're here to help you. We don't want to lose anybody. So if there are questions, you know, even after tonight, if you need to call us tomorrow, it's okay. If there's something that you just need clarity about, so that we can make sure that you are on the right track, okay? So, with that in mind, I want to talk to you about what the next 3 semesters of your life is going to look like. Now, nobody can quit on me. You're here tonight. Nobody can quit on me. I will get upset. I will have a tantrum or whatever. Nobody can quit on us now. You belong to us now. So I need a commitment that you're starting something, and I want you to finish it. And we're going to work hard to make sure that you're successful in this endeavor. But over the next 3 semesters, and you're on the fast train now because you signed up for it, you're actually completing a whole program in 3 semesters. So you're going to be completing what we call evidences. And you're going to complete 2 evidences this semester. You're going to complete 2 evidences in 603 in the summer, and then you will complete 2 evidences in 605 in the fall when you finish. What are evidences? Okay. Evidences, that's the actual work. That's the meat and the body of the work that you will do that will be sent eventually to the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and they will look at all of this and they'll say, yes, this person is ready to be a school administrator. South Carolina people, yours will go to North Carolina as well. You'll get a North Carolina certificate, and then you'll take it back to South Carolina. They'll reciprocate it and give you a certificate there, and you have to take the praxis, which we'll talk about that, you know, with you later on as well. But for this semester, you're going to do 2 evidences. We are going to begin evidence 1 tonight. and it is called the APSL. The APSL is actually an analysis and action plan for student learning. Student, not rocket science. We begin with the student in mind. That's why we're in the education business to begin with. That's why we're in public schools. It's because of the students. If it wasn't for students, none of us would be there. So we're going to begin with the student in mind. I want you to think about those acronyms. You're going to see over here to the side, this is the APSL task and prompts. Let me bring that up. Okay. Slowness. Okay. What you see here, this is evidence one, the analysis and action plan for student learning. You're actually going to be analyzing what does student learning look like at your school. And once you do an analysis of it, the 5 tasks that are involved with the development of the APSL will culminate in you actually doing you'll do an action plan based on what you find about student learning at your school. We're going to take each of these tasks and we're going to talk about them in more detail. We're going to specifically talk about task 1 tonight because that is the one that you have to begin working on this week. But in addition to doing your research, conducting a needs assessment for your school, looking at best practices, what's happening, and again, we're going to talk about these more in detail. You will develop an action plan. And the action plan is, in the end, we're going to take, you're going to identify a problem area at your school. And your job is, with the established PLC that Dr. Revis is going to talk about tonight, is to take them from point A to point B and to try to make improvements in your school this semester. That's what we're hoping is going to happen this semester with the work that you do. But this is where you will find everything that you need to know about the APSL. This is it lists the competency work that you have to do detail by detail, specifically what has to be done. But this is not the document that I want to really refer to. That's important and you have to use that. But what I want to refer to is this material. And we're going to come back to that in just a few minutes. Dr. Lamb has joined us, but Dr. Lamb has blessed us. Dr. Lamb, all of them may not have met you last night, so if you would, my throat needs to rest a minute anyway. If you would introduce yourself again and just talk with them about the template.
All right. This is Dale Lamb, Chair of the Males Program at Gardner Webb. Welcome. Glad you chose Gardner. There are 6 evidences that make up your TaskStream VRF portfolio that will be state graded while you're still at Gardner Webb. Once you complete it in Blackboard, we'll move it over to TaskStream. State graders will grade it there. Once your TaskStream portfolio is complete, we'll move it to DPI. We generally don't have any problem with that. That's how you'll get your license. Now, first of those 6 evidences is the APSL. We're going to cover this really in depth on Thursday night. I'll be with you to cover the APSL. We work off templates to start with, and there's a reason why that we do that. Dr. Stedman has control of the screen. I normally do. We have a cover page, your name here. That's not an IQ test. You put your name there. And then the key is anything in yellow means this is what you've got to do. Put stuff here. Anything in red is an example, and you can take it out. So you can type directly onto these templates, and everything in black stays because you have to have the directions. The number one thing to learn about working in TaskStream or documents that are going to go to TaskStream for state grading is follow the directions and make it easier on your grader. They don't want to have to look at the template to see what this task or this prompt is supposed to be. The task and the prompt should be there on the paper, and then your narrative. Don't make them have to hunt and go back and forth. Everything that's in dark, like highlighted here where it says PLC research, there should be a section in your paper that says PLC research. For the purposes of this course, who's wearing Grant's tomb is Grant. There is no gag here. If it says PLC selection, there should be a title there that says PLC selection, and you tell us that. Now, we'll get a little fancier maybe in later evidences, but in the first one, we're going to be very lockstep in terms of do it this way, do it now. And so you'll go through again. We have the sections highlighted, expect narrative in and the things for you to do. So when you start out, you're going to research the tenets of a PLC. Just getting four to six teachers together is not a PLC. That's usually a mob or a riot or a complaint section. That's the complaint department. Forming a PLC means you have norms, values, responsibilities, those kinds of things. You've got to research how to do a PLC. In your class shell, you have the DeFore materials. Richard DeFore is the father of PLCs in public school. We have those resources right here for you.
Yeah.
They'll be underneath this one. If we go down, I'm sure that they're there.
They are.
And so you'll do your research. Now, there are modern people other than Richard DeFore on PLCs, but always start with the seminal work, and that's it. So you're going to research how to set up a PLC, what the purpose is, how to set it up. Then you're going to tell us about your selection. You need a different process for picking the people of your PLC other than eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or they were on my hall. There needs to be a reason why you picked them. And then you'll tell us about your first PLC meeting that you run. We'd like to see an agenda. We'd like to see minutes. Those become facts, and you'll need those later. And so that's the first thing that you're going to do in task one promptly. You're going to do your PLC research, form your PLC, and then you're going to conduct your first PLC meeting. That first meeting is going to begin to set up your norms and values, your big idea. Why are we here? All these documents are right here. You can see, you read this, it'll become clear to you. Oh, a PLC has a purpose, and it's set up a certain way, and it's run a certain way. And once you've done that, then you're going to convene your group. Once you got your norms and your big idea and all your roles assigned and those kinds of things, then you're going to start your data dive. You're going to and start looking at the standardized test score data from your school. Now, people say, well, what does that mean, standardized score? That's the things that you'd see on your state report card. If you're in elementary, that would be the old M-class data or DIBELS. It would be your end-of-course test. In high school, end-of-grade test. In elementary and middle school, grades 3 through 8. It would be SAT scores, those kinds of things. It would not be some test the teacher made in a civics class to see who can balance the checkbook. It would not be something like that. It would be standardized test score data that is published to the world to represent how well your school is doing. That's what we're going to work with. We're going to try to close the gap in some group in your school, so we're going to do a data dive. Now, for those of you who say, you know, if you can get kids to behave better, they'll automatically score better. If you're one of those people that believes that, you probably need to get out of this program tonight. That is not true. Or if we put uniforms on kids, that will help our instructional program. No, it won't. They'll just be kids behaving badly, dressed similarly. This is an academic program. We want to present something to students, instruction, to move them along in their academic progress. You can't do discipline here. You can't do uniforms. You can't do attendance here, or we'll get lunch buddies. No, this is an academic piece. This is about improving standardized test scores, identifying gaps, and directing instructional resources to them. I will not accept discipline, PBIS. PBIS is not the WD-40 of the world. It doesn't fix everything. It's not duct tape and WD-40. It has its place, but not in instruction. We'll give you a chance to do some of those. There are evidences. One's instruction. The second one's a staff development or professional development plan. The third one is your master schedule. The fourth one is your school and community involvement. And then when you get to the one, you can do discipline, attendance, those things. When you get to your cultural advocacy plan, you can, all that burning desire you had to do discipline and PBI as well. In your third semester, you can do that, but not this semester. So I want everybody to be clear. I don't want to be the least bit ambiguous. If you do that, not only will they send it back, I'll be mad as fire. We're working on an instructional program. When I go to Raleigh and I go around the outer belt and I turn south on 40 going toward Wilmington, the second exit there goes into the backside of Garner. That's Jones Sausage Road. You do at Jones Sausage, they make sausage. You know what we do in public school? Teach kids. You want them to learn more, you have to teach them more. And so this is about teaching them more. This is about our competency in the school business, which is teaching students. This is not about, we'll have a place for discipline, we'll have a place for attendance, and all these other wonderful uniforms and all that. If that's just your burning desire, we've got a place for that later on, but it's not here. So that everybody understands, and I'll be on this same rant Thursday night. Make sure everybody understands. We're going to be looking at test scores. Now, if you're one of those people who believe, well, test scores are not really representative of what kids learn, get out now. If you don't understand that this is competitive business and that they will evaluate you and your school on the basis of performance outcomes on standardized tests, you're in the wrong business. You mistakenly taken the wrong turn into this bunch. Performance matters. That's why we start with it. Instruction is the core. It's our core competency. It's what we do. That's why we start with it. Because we want everybody to understand that the key to being a successful administrator is you get performance out of your school. There's other people who teach you that, but the one we always have to focus on is student achievement, period. That has to be our focus because that's our core competency. And so that's what the AppSell does, is it focuses us on setting up a PLC, looking at our data, representing that data, finding our most pressing need in that data. That's at the end of task 2. Prompt 2 is we're going to find our most pressing need. Now, that most pressing need, you have to show us that through your data. You can't do all this data desegregation and say our most pressing need is to get students not to come to school tardy. No. Your most pressing need comes from that standardized score data. That's where it comes from. And you better have a little chart or a graph there, what we call a figure, that shows us that. This is why, this is the most important thing. So let's say that your most pressing need is reading fluency, not comprehension, reading fluency. So what I would do then is I would go to my Blackboard. I would sign into Web Connect, go to Blackboard, and right there, next to where it says Gardner Web, where I click and go to my classes, there's a library tab, and I click on that library tab out of Blackboard, and that would take me directly to Bulldog One search engine. That's not Google. This is a professional search engine that will take you to professional articles, not opinion articles like on Google. I would use Bulldog One on the library tab inside of Blackboard, and I would go to Bulldog One, and I would research reading fluency. That would be called a literature review. And I would look at some of those articles on reading fluency, and guess what? Surprise, surprise. Phonics, that's the thing to do. That's what all the articles say. So then I would do an annotated bibliography on at least 6 articles that where they had used to try to improve reading fluency in their school. The literature review is on your most pressing need, the problem, which is reading fluency. The annotated bibliography is on the solution, the studies where they used phonics. So that's where we're going to go with our literature review and our annotated bibliography. Now, I'm going to pause and catch my breath and ask a question. Should we do our PLC grade level or go wider? That's kind of up to you. I mean, people that I could work with, I have access to. You know, once you kind of get your PLC up and rolling and you learn how to use Zoom, you can actually Zoom PLCs. But it's going to be hard to operate a PLC if you don't have access to these people. For example, if you have planning second block and I would be looking for people maybe that have planning second block, but I'd also be looking for people who have similar interest to me, who would work and actually want to try to improve things. I wouldn't just pick them for proximity, but that would be part of it. I wouldn't go more than 4 total. That'd be 3 plus you. You can actually do, I think it probably works best to do 3. You and 2 more. No more than you and 3 more. So if you say you've got a arts department that's got 6 in it, I wouldn't ask all 6 of them. That's too many. That's too many balls in the air to try to make 6 schedules and that many opinions. You need people. You need 2 or 3 good people who actually want to do this and want to get after it and understand that we're not just doing this as a class project. That you're getting your license from this, but more importantly, the state says you got to make a change. You got to make a difference in your school in order to get that license. That's what you're trying to do here. All right, so, all right, so can we get back to our template, Dr. Stedman?
Yeah, well, I wanted to show them underneath the template, we've got this document, it's the APSO Helpful Hints, and this is designed from the template, and it basically takes the template and it tells you step by step everything that you need to do to fill in the blank. And task 1, this is what Dr. Lamb has just talked about. Task 1 is actually what you've got to begin working on immediately. So you've got a job to do tomorrow. You need to go ahead and you need to talk with your site administrator. You need to ask permission to formulate a PLC of your peers, and you need to begin working on task 1 for review this week. And this tells you exactly, step by step, what you need to do to fill in the blank on that template. And we'll talk about this more in detail on Thursday night, but you don't have time to wait until Thursday night. You need to go ahead and look at this, and you need to get started. But if you look at this, there shouldn't be any questions. It spells it out about as plain as it can spell it out, Dr. Lamb.
Yeah, it does. And so this is the companion to the template.
I'm getting back to the template now.
Okay. All right. So we have formed our PLC. We've done our research. We looked at the 4. We looked at least 6 references. We formed our PLC. We've had our meeting. We've done our data dive. We've looked at our standardized scores. We have determined our most pressing need. We have done our literature review on our most pressing need, and we've done our annotated bibliography on, and that's what we're going to write up here. Our most pressing need, as you can see. Then we're going to present the data of our most pressing need, and then we're going to do our literature review, and then we're going to do our annotated bibliography. Now make sure that you understand. You've got to do the literature review on the most pressing need, reading fluency. The annotated bibliography is of studies where they address that through maybe the use of phonics, some other solution to the problem. The literature review is of the problem to see what other people are doing, and then you look at those studies and say, oh, this was your solution. And so once you get through that, and then you will give us visuals of what you've done then, and you'll embed them to show how you've chosen the strategy. You know, they use phonics, they have this much success, test score here to here. Tell us graphically why you picked this particular solution, and then that will lead you into your action plan. And here are the parts of the action plan, the importance of the plan. Well, our reading scores, our reading fluency scores are really hurting our reading comprehension, and it really hurting our tested reading scores. And what we have found is we have a high non-English, native English-speaking population, and we're wasting our time trying to do comprehension with them when they're not even fluent in English. So we got to do the fluency piece first. And so what the importance is we got to get our reading scores up. Obviously, that alignment with outcomes, I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory. And then we're going to do short and long, midterm and long-term goals and objectives with our program, with our phonics program to address reading. We'll have specific activities, who's going to do what, where, and when. We're going to pull this group aside and do this instruction with them on Tuesday and Thursdays while these goes to specials. You're going to kind of give us a narrative of how you're going to pull it off. Then you're going to give us the indicator of success, quarterly test, report cards, end of course exam, end of grade exam. How are we going to see that? Who's going to do what, where, and when? That's clarification of the role, and then formative and summative assessment. So if you'll roll on down, and you're going to write all this out narratively, if you roll on down, and then you're going to summarize it in this graphic organizer. Now, don't show them. Don't do that.
Yeah.
This graphic organizer, this is required. Your action plan must be summarized in a graphic organizer. What we're going to do, we're going to do phonics. When we're going to do it, we're going to do it in March and April. Persons responsible or the reading, the names of the two reading teachers. Resources needed, this program, these books. Formative assessment. All right, now, this is the most important part that I will probably cover for you tonight. As an administrator, you need to learn the difference between formative and summative. Is not give them a test at midterm. Formative assessment is of the adults to make sure that they are implementing the program with fidelity, like you told them to. That's your job as a principal. Guess what? That's your number one job. They don't pay you to teach students. They pay you to make sure other people teach students. Formative assessment is of the adults. Summative is the kids at the end of the year. How did they do on whatever test or measure that we looked at, that standardized test scores? Formative assessment is of the adults. Are they presenting the program with fidelity? I'll tell you a long story about that RTI, response to intervention, the reading intervention program. I'll tell you a long story about that Thursday night. But basically, the bottom line on that is nobody was checking to make sure that the teachers were presenting those scripted lessons. And 3 years in a row, their reading scores were exactly the same. Didn't get any improvement. And they called me in to figure out why. It took me about 15 minutes. When I asked the room to make sure these lessons are being taught, I said, I don't have time. I thought you were there. That's what they paid you. I've got too much paper. Well, they're not teaching those lessons then. Nobody's doing formative assessment. And so now, the second thing you need to understand, is the difference between a goal and indicator of success. Goals we're going to get to eventually. We want to move our reading scores from 60% on grade level to 80%, but we can't expect a 20-point jump in 1 year. That'd be 4 standard deviations. That's impossible. An indicator of success would be 1 standard deviation, 5 points, to go from 60 to 65. But over the course of 4 or 5 years, we'd like to move from 60 to 80. Goal is where we want to be eventually. You know, we want this percentage at grade level for making growth on the end of grade test. Indicator of success for this year is we're going to make this many points this year. Too many times over the years in the era of accountability, I have seen, and I'm sure you have too, new administration walks into a school and say, our reading scores were 37% last year on grade level. Our goal this year is 60. I'm like, they ought to make you wear a helmet to sign if you're that dumb. You can't make up 23 points in 1 year. 5 points is 1 standard deviation. That would be a great gain in 1 year. But people walk in, if we work hard enough and want it, you know, hard enough, we can move 23 points in 1 year. No, you can't. No, you can't. You got to be realistic. Indicator of success may be the most important thing in terms of getting teacher buy-in. If your goal is 80 and you're at 40, you know, a lot of people are going to say, if you say we're going to go in 1 year, but if you give them steps to get there, you know, we're going to move 5 points this year, 3 points, 5 points. We're going to move 1 standard deviation this year. That's doable. People will buy into that and doable. But hopefully you won't be one of those nitwits that come in and think that you know, we can do this, and you know, that you're the smartest administrator and everybody else just didn't know how to do it. But if you put enough pressure on teachers, they'll figure out a way to make it in 1 year. No, they won't. It won't happen. And so you've got to be realistic. Now, for the purposes of what we're doing here, all the standardized tests in North and South Carolina are usually on a 100-point scale. And what that generally means is 1 standard deviation is 5 points. It's impossible to make more than 2. Well, it's not impossible. It's highly improbable. There's only a 0.003 of a point of 1 percentage point chance that you could make more than 2 standard deviations in 1 year. So I'd say that's fairly impossible. So generally what I tell students is you're looking to make about a 3 to 5 point, on a 100-point scale, you're looking to make a 3 to 5 point growth in 1 year. That's what you're looking to do. 3 to 5 points on a 100-point scale. Anything more than that's not really realistic. You know, the first tenet of leadership is followership. You got to have consent of the governed. You got to get teachers to go along with you. You know, if nobody's following you, you know, it's just a walk in the wilderness. And teachers resent when people come in and think that, if they just put enough pressure on me, I've not been doing my best all. I've just been slacking, and just because they showed up now, I'm going to start doing my job. Teachers usually have been doing their job, but there's some things that we can do that we can zero in. We can identify some gaps, and we can put some time and resources in those. Try to get those things moving. You're not going to get a 40-point gain in your reading scores. Let me tell you that. But if you will be realistic with teachers, then they will follow you, and you can get some things done. Now, the last thing is, this is a flow chart that is optional. It's at the end of our template. I'll be the first to tell you I'd rather have a head cold than have to interpret most flow charts, because most folks don't know how to do them. But if it makes sense to you and you'd like to add one, and you think it would be explanatory or helpful when you present this to people, then knock yourself out. I appreciate the effort, but you cannot, and don't send me, don't ask Dr. Stedman, no, you cannot substitute the flow chart for the graphic organizer. I'll tell you now. The graphic organizer is not optional. That means they cannot be switched. So when you turn in task 4 and it doesn't have a graphic organizer, they're going to send it back to you because they're going to say, Dr. Lamb will fire me if I let you slide by without a graphic organizer because they know I will. So make sure you understand. Graphic organizer is not optional. The flow chart is.
You must have right here.
It's usually there for your presentation to folks in your school to help them understand how it all works. And that's great. This is a presentation tool. It's not a data tool. We have to have the data tool, which is graphic organizer. That's what DPI says they want to see. And you talk about building efficacy, strategies for sustained growth, issues concerning diversity resources, and establishing a shared vision. And then in task 5, you will write all 21 of your competencies, and we have examples of them here. Now, some will say, well, you've got 2 technologies, and we do.
Not anymore, Dale.
Did you take one of them out? Well, see, now that was the IQ test. How am I going to know who's paying attention if you took the technologies out?
Anyway,
I intentionally put 2 in because students would write 2 of them, and we'd know attention to the direction. Dang, I'd figure out some other trick now. You actually going to have to read their work now.
But underneath that, Dr. Lamb, everything has been listed with the competencies for the APSL, and then all 21 competencies have been included as well.
So please remember, you'll do 12 competencies at the end in APSL task 5. You will do the other 9 for a total of 21 when you do the APTEL task 4. It only has 4 tasks. And so by the end of the semester, you will have written all 21 of your competencies. Now, that is not to be confused with putting artifacts in your competency folio. This is just your writing how you have achieved competency. We'll talk Thursday night more about artifacts you generate along the way. Email permission, a screenshot of the email permission to your principal to form a PLC, that would be an artifact. Minutes or an agenda from a PLC meeting, that would be an artifact. Too many times folks refer to our evidence narratives as artifacts. They are not. Artifacts are byproducts of the work that we do. So please make sure. Now, we'll talk about artifacts on Thursday night and how to save these things, that kind of thing. We're going to have you put them in a separate folio, a web folio that can be downloaded and sent to Perspective, and you can also get renewal credits with it. It works a number of magical things, but we'll talk about that Thursday night. So this is the APSL. This is the first one. Everybody has to do it, whether you're master on. Now, this is not a Gardner Webb thing. This is a DPI thing. They tell us the 6 evidences they want produced. They produce the grading rubric for them as well. There is a standardized state grading rubric that goes with these. And when the state graders grade them, they'll use those rubrics. And if those things aren't there, then they will send them back for revision. What we don't want to do is send things to the graders and make them more than once. That really makes them angry. So we want to make sure that we follow Gardner Webb's process of peer review, instructor review, coach review. Everybody gets a say-so. We get these things as good as we can get them before we take them to task, because we do them to be sent back for revision from the state. That does not go well. That doesn't go well for you. It doesn't go well for us. Part of the reason why Gardner Webb is the #1 ranked principal preparation program in North Carolina is because we don't aggravate DPI. We don't send them less than quality work. They not only adjudicate our student work, they will adjudicate your work once you get your job. Your performance rating, we are evaluated by your performance rating. If you understand the evidence artifact system, that's the way you will be evaluated once you're in your job. You have to do evidence artifacts again. Once you have gotten this system down, not only will you get your license and do well. You will also do well when you get out in the real world and get your job. You will do very well. Gardner-Webb, our last 3-year sample of graduates from the principal licensure program and for the master's and principal licensure program on the 5 standards that the state measures on their evaluation instrument, Gardner-Webb graduates exceeded the state average significantly in all 5 of those standards in the 2 highest categories, the distinguished and accomplished. There is a reason why. Our folks know evidence artifacts backwards and forwards when they leave. You will spend a year of your life, and that's pretty much all you will do other than sleep and work is evidence artifacts. There are 6 of them. But you will learn the system. You'll know how that works, and you'll say, but why do you? Because when you get in your job, you're going to have to know them as well. That's the heart of the evaluation system for administrators. So this is the first one. You've got about 8 weeks to knock this one out. And then we'll do the APTEL, and you'll have about 6 weeks or so to knock it out. And you should finish up a couple weeks before the semester is over. You will have Zoom groups where you will peer review one another's work. You'll your work in discussion board and get it reviewed by your peers. Your instructors will review it. Coaches will review on it as well. I'll look at it from time to time. And so I won't be with you every time, but I'll be with you on Thursday nights a good bit until we kind of get things going.
And I told them, Dr. Lamb, that we would talk more about peer reviews on Thursday night.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. All that's coming up on Thursday night. We'll get kind of down in the weeds on peer review. Are you going to have them do any video peer reviews this semester?
There will
One?
be, yes, they will do one each semester.
One for the APTEL and one for the APTEL. Excellent.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I did want to
You'll do a written review, and then you'll get together on Zoom and read it to one another.
Right.
And so you'll do that. So
Dr.
this
Lamb?
is a writing intensive program, but that's very important. You'll need that when you get in your job. All right.
We've got several questions in our chat room.
Oh my.
And I've been trying to fill those questions, but I have messed up because some of you are asking me questions privately, and let's just try to make it a standard thing that if you're okay with that, to ask your questions to everyone, because what started happening is I got lost in the questions and I started answering the wrong person. So I have a mess on the chat questions, but getting a lot of questions about what data should we use at this point of the school year.
Your EOG, EOC doubles from last year.
Your North Carolina, South Carolina report card, your advanced ed, your most recent advanced ed report, your most recent teacher working conditions survey, any benchmark testing that you've got. If you've got a research-based program in your school that gives results, then you can use the results from that. In South Carolina, I know that they use, I think, how do you say it, the Elliott or Elliott? Anyway, a lot of information is gained from that in South Carolina. So anything that your school uses or your district uses that you can glean data from. Right, Dr. Lamb?
Yeah.
So,
Standardized reports.
yeah. So
Anything you see on your state report card, you know what the high stakes testing is in your school.
and most of those things you have access to them anyway.
Of course you do.
Wanted to show before.
EVOS scores, you know what
Yes.
you know what matters in your school.
Yes.
That's the stuff that every time somebody mentions it, your principal grabs a bottle of Maalox and takes a big. That's the ones. You know the ones. They're running around and always like they got heartburn over that.
Yeah. Dr. Lamb, I want to also let them know that in addition to the template, the helpful hints document that will basically take it, you've been blessed. This is the only time you'll get this gift. This is the absolute example. This has been corrected, Dr. Lamb, to align with APA 7th edition.
You too good to them. I would have never done that.
Well, they've got it. So you've got an example of how to do the first evidence, but after that, you own your own. So this is a gift. Dr. Lamb actually is the
Well, you better,
gift.
y'all better enjoy this, because when I get you next semester finance,
Don't scare them tonight. Don't scare them tonight.
But anyway, no. And I want to tell you, we normally try to stick within an hour, but the first week or two, it's going to go over. So just know that. But after that, we pretty much can work things out within the hour time frame. So it won't always be this long. Okay, we're going to just pick up on Thursday night where we left off. And Dr. Revis, I'm going to ask you if you would to bring the benediction to this group tonight.
Okay, I know it's got to be overwhelming for you to hear all this information. I think the closing remarks that I would leave with you is get on your principal's calendar tomorrow if you can, to sit down and talk with him or her about you needing to create a PLC around a student learning need in your school, and talk about that and get that set up and be thinking about who you want to pull in on that PLC. Now, my guess is your principal is going to have an idea of an area of student learning need that he or she would like you to dive into a little bit deeper, and that's okay. If he doesn't or she doesn't, then you just look at all the data. But you're looking at your student performance data. Again, the latest data you have is from last spring. Now, you do have, some of you have a lot of formative assessments that are going on through the year. I know we have iStation out there now. Some districts have their own formative quarterly benchmarks, etc. You can use those also, but to identify your student learning need, use your state performance data from last spring. But you need to get onto that and start looking at your research on PLCs, starting with DuFour. And even if you look in week 2, you've got some excellent resources there as well on PLCs.
Okay. And again, we'll pick up on Thursday night, and I promise you, I told you this from the beginning. I know it's overwhelming, like Dr. Revis said, but after about 2 or 3 weeks, you'll see where all of this starts coming together, and it won't be as much. You will become acclimated to things. We lose very few people, right, Dr. Lamb?
very few.
Very few people do we lose.
Because these folks will support you. They'll be there for you. We'll all be here. We want you to be successful. This is a life-changing experience. You've come to us as adults. You're not kids. You want to make a change in your career. What this is, it's not just changing jobs. You're changing careers. You're going from working with students to working with adults. We take that responsibility seriously, and that you've entrusted us with your career path and the money that it's costing you to do this. And we're going to make sure that if you stick with us, we'll make sure that you're successful. That's what we do.
And later on tonight, it's going to take a while for this to upload and for me to get it ready. But later on tonight, you will get this video, and it will be placed. You'll get it. It'll be emailed to you, but it'll also be placed under week 1, so you'll always have it to go back and refer to it as you need to.
Mm-hmm. I saw a question about your clinical course. Don't worry about that. You're not going to need that for the clinical shell. You won't use the 698 internship shell. You'll have a clinical shell with your coach's name on it. And we do that because those are continuous shells. So don't worry about your clinical shell. We'll do the clinical work. We'll be working in this shell, in your class shell, exclusively for the first couple of weeks. They were still registering students and getting them in the clinical sections today when I left about 6:30. So they're on it. It's just they're just a little behind.
And you can know this, Dr. Lamb, Dr. Revis, and I are available. And as I said at the beginning, we're going to be working back and forth with you to make sure that you're successful in all this. Hope to see you again on Thursday night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.